Welcome back to another episode with ByrdAdatto. Throughout this week, we've been talking about different aspects about reopening and being thinking through what are the things you need to consider. And obviously, if you're in on the aesthetic side, sales is a big important aspect to your practice of actually having someone come to your practice and learning how to sell them on their needs and the things they need from a medical services line or a product line. And a lot of people are going to be are going to have to rethink about how they're going to be communicating with their own staff and how the staff's going to be communicating with the patients. And we're super excited to have a special guest today, all the way from California. And Michael, can you please introduce our awesome guest?
Well, for those of you that are part of Terry's tribe, there's no introduction needed. Those of you who are not, this is Terri Ross with Terri Ross Consulting, a friend of our firms and someone who has been in this aesthetic space for many years and a guru when it comes to sales and helping practices flourish.
Thank you guys so much, Michael and Brad. I'm really honored to have the opportunity to be with you guys today. You have been putting out some amazing content, as well as I, and I think more importantly, we're all here to really give back to the industry, both on the legal aspect, the compliance, and then, you mentioned the word sales, and I know that can always be this icky connotation for everybody. So, we'll really take that word and really preface upon the education behind that.
Absolutely. And Terri, that's the piece that I think is fascinating is right now we have some of our clients are slowly reopening. Some are still closed. Some are still uncertain as to when they can actually open. And we're using these as opportunities to say, hey, this is time for you to do some housekeeping. Think about getting your policies and procedures in place as to when you open. But this is going to be a different world when you're communicating with your staff starts communicating with the patients. I thought you would be a great resource to really start talking about things they should be considering throughout this process so they can start bringing their patients back in. And what does that look like for them?
Thank you. Such a good question. Obviously, first and foremost, as we enter into reopening, a lot of the content and information has been around safety. So I can't preface that the safety component is so important. But what's also important is, and I hope that during these past couple of months, you've had the opportunity to self-introspect, right? To really take a look at your business, on the profit loss, on your balance sheet, on your staff, on your services, because what I encourage people to do, and if you haven't done it, I did a webinar with AmSpa, and it was really around a SWOT analysis, right? And so what is that? Your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And a lot of calls I got post that was, my staff isn't comfortable, right? They don't really know how to communicate effectively. And we struggled before with sales. And so now how are we going to come back when patients are going to have, be slightly more cost conscious? And so, I guess number one, I would say your staff has to feel confident coming back to the practice. And so we've discussed a lot about protocols and why that's important, how they're going to be able to articulate the safety measures that the practices are putting in place. But as we take it a step further, when clients are now calling, wanting to get in for an appointment for a procedure, I want you guys to take away something that while we're selling retail, this is a retail business, you're selling a solution to a problem, right? So we're not selling the breast implant. We're not selling cool sculpting. We're not selling Botox. We're selling the fact that we've been sitting at home for a couple of months and I feel old. I don't feel good about myself. I might have gained some weight. So I want you guys to be thinking about the pain point of the patient and be able to articulate this model, which is called LAYER. Listen, acknowledge, explore, and respond. And the majority of the time, we're listening, not very long and not intently, right? And then we're responding very quickly to all of the solutions that we can do. And this time more than ever, when we have to be sympathetic and empathetic, I would like you to take a minute, and really listen and ask a lot of questions. How's the patient been feeling? What have they been doing during this time of COVID? How has this made them feel? What's been bothering them the most? And you're going to get a lot of information, and it just feels good to ask me questions. And then the acknowledging part, thank you for sharing. I can see how that matters to you. And let me share what we're doing here as a practice and what you're going to experience and when you come back in to see how that flow goes, right? And then we're acknowledging, and then we're exploring, we're asking more questions, and then we're responding. So I think the more we can improve the confidence of the staff, right? Allow them to understand why they're there, right? People are forgetting their unique value proposition. People do have a lot of choices. And I think the other thing that's going to happen as it relates to sales is there is going to be a lot of people doing that bargain-based pricing, right? They're going to want people in the door, so they're going to decrease their value. Please don't do that, right? You guys have went to school, you're highly educated. We're getting back to business, and you have to really ask yourself, why is that person $16 a unit and why are you 13? Right? There's a reason for that. And so be very confident in understanding the value proposition of the practice, and more importantly, how you can learn to be better engaging with the patient so that they feel really comfortable to want to come to you.
That's awesome. What strikes me, Terri, is, now just more emphasis than ever is just that idea of putting yourself in a place to meet the patients where they are. There's such a premium on that because, you can easily miss the mark if you're just thinking about yourself and what your needs are.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's right. And, back to that questioning, right? I teach a lot about the treatment plan, right? Because you want a sustainable business model and you want the clients to have the best outcome and not go multiple places. But the only way to be able to do that, and the only way to slowly get somebody in the door, to your point, Michael, is to ask them enough questions to meet that needs. I might not have all the money, right, to come in and do everything, but I will have the money, and I do want the value of the best experience and the most qualified provider. And so, at the end of the day, that's what I think all patients should be looking for making the right decisions when choosing a practice.
That was awesome, Terri. As someone who's seen you speak many times, I always love hearing. I feel like no matter what, even though I've seen you speak a lot, I always learn something or reminds me of why I love working with you and why my clients love working with you. So we're so happy that you could join us today. So thanks again for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And until the next time, we again appreciate everybody joining us, and we look forward to speaking with you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.